Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Hello, hello, hello. Sorry I'm late, y'all. Hi. I love the design on your fridge. Thank you so much. I'm also finally awake, Elizabeth. I got to part 2 of the book. Not sure if that's where I landed. You're ahead. You're ahead a little bit, Shelly. But that's okay. Morning, Missy. Morning, everybody. I need to order coffee pods today. Ugh. I better send this to... There we go. How's everybody? You got it. You got what? What did you get? Sharing. Good morning. Hey Liz, how are you? How was your night after the restock? Y'all calm down. I would have had a heart attack. I can't believe it's your start of spring break. Is this early or late for the start of spring break? Am I just out of touch with when spring break is nowadays? I know you've had to sift through all mass emails, but you didn't mind work. Missy, I'm not sure. I still have a lot of emails to go through. I decided to do it a little differently where I'm kind of doing it backwards so that I could get more orders out. If there were people that I knew didn't need anything, I've been packing up their orders to just get them going. You know what I mean? But I will get to all the emails. I promise. Every state and region is different. That makes sense. Well, Becca, people just wanted to make sure that you didn't miss it. Like, nobody wanted you to be sad. Obviously. Everybody loves you. It's early for California. We got the first or second week of April here. Okay, that's what I thought, because I grew up in California, so maybe that you're going back to work day, it might just be a half day. At least it's something. That is something. Maybe that's why I'm used to it being later, because I grew up in California. Should I just give you my order numbers right now? No, definitely not. I will never remember them. Never. There's no world where my brain will process that. I'm so sorry, Missy. It's not personal. Numbers and I are not friends, and I already don't remember stuff when it happens on lives, but numbers, oh God, I will never remember numbers. It's truly not personal. My kids are off till the second week of April. Okay. So a good job. Another successful race. I got all the ones I wanted. Yay, Alex, I'm so happy for you. Congratulations on getting everything you wanted. Congrats. I don't need anything except the slime. Very excited making my coffee now. I'm making my coffee too. Who else is making their coffee? Coffee. I don't know what that was. Sorry, that was really embarrassing. Not like I'm not embarrassing every day, but whatever. It is what it is. No, it's okay. I want to do whatever's easiest for you. Yeah, no worries. If I can't write stuff down, I definitely don't remember it. And when I'm on live, I can't. I should make another matcha. Yes. Oh, I love matcha. Thank you, Becca, for that text reminder. I have, I guess I don't have the thing for it anymore. Liz, remind me later, we can talk about where you get your matcha. I love the matcha I have. The one from Unicorn Superfoods is pretty good. And the one from Ronnie's is really good too. Really nice. Good morning, Kiki. I played with my slime from last year stuff to keep you from ordering last night. I feel that, Elizabeth. I felt that deeply. All right, let's see if we can do this. Can we get 8 in a row? Come on. What is up? Yeah. That was good. Hi, James. Everybody say hi, James. My old roommate James is on here. I got Moana 3 for birthday next week. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Wait, will you email me and tell me which order is Moana's birthday order? I got it from Costco, but I'm definitely open to something higher quality. Yeah, I mean, like, I love matcha in general, but I like the high quality ones because they taste less like grass. Does that make sense? James was my roommate when I lived in the village. For some reason, I don't like matcha, chai, or boba. Just old coffee and tea. That's fair. Everyone has a different taste palette, so there's no reason why everyone has to like the same stuff. When are you planning on doing another restock? I really want some clay slimes. Totally understand, Amanda. I hope to have one soon. Don't forget your water bottle. Yeah, did I put water in that? I did. Okay, we're good. What village? James and I lived in the East Village together, right along Alphabet City, actually. We lived on Avenue B and 4th. Yeah. Yep. We lived on Avenue B. Morning guys. Yeah, no slime this morning. I don't have any slime with me. We are reading books. Reading books. Yes, no water. Oh, you're right. How did you know that the water wasn't sitting here? Zoe must have stolen it. What a little gremlin. She stole it. She calls it the rainbow water. She calls it rainbow water. Isn't that funny? Yeah, glow-in-the-dark slimes are amazing. She moved my rainbow water. You're right. Good morning. If sending mine separately, no. I will send them together. Don't worry, Missy. They'll get sent together. Don't stress. They'll get sent together. I love the color of Ursula. Me too. I will have you know I've had Herc was on a roll stuck in my head for a solid day now. I understand. Same. I have had Llama, he's supposed to be dead, stuck in my head. And it has to be said just like that, obviously. Because otherwise it's not correct. That's the only way that you're allowed to say it. You can't just say like Llama, he's supposed to be dead. You have to say it in the voice. Don't be fragile. Don't be fragile, Missy. Oh, you're flexible, not fragile. Every glow-in-the-dark video, I hear your voice saying hello for Bruno. That's funny. It is book club, Destiny. Hi, Destiny. Hello, hello. Good morning, Shandy. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. Good morning. Okay, we are going to get started. Both words describe me, actually. Honestly, same. Honestly, freaking same. Yeah. Yeah. Technically 1 8-ounce grab bag, nothing slime related. Good morning. Finally caught up before the dog walking. Yes. All right. So for anyone who is new, we are reading The Circus Train. We're about halfway through the book. I love this. When I went to bed, you were slinging slime, and I wake up and you're here again. Oh, yeah. I just got on. I got on later than I usually do, but here we are. So I'm like angry about where we are in the book. Shelly's angry, you guys. She's gonna be okay? She's so mad. See that? She's so mad. She's really angry. Who needs sleep, apparently? I mean, I went to bed at like 12:45. Not location-wise, story-wise. I know, I'm teasing you, Shelly. I know. Yeah. I passed out a little bit at 12:45. That's what happened. I got a solid 4 hours. Yeah. All right. Chapter 23. My son has been sick all night, so I have not slept. Oh my gosh. Elizabeth H. We have 3 Elizabeths, so I have to differentiate them, but the other Elizabeth just went to bed for the same reason. Empathy angers for Shelly. Yeah. Someone's gonna have to, right? Also, someone needs to tell my sister that if she wants more Italian cream coffee, she's going to have to go buy herself more Italian cream creamer because we're almost out. And I don't have time to go to Target today. So, someone call Catherine. It's not going to be me. Whatever. Thank you for reading to us. No problem, Amanda. I'm happy to do it. It gets me focused in the morning and helps me do more reading, which I love. Like, already in 2023, I've read like 5 books as a result of doing a couple on here and a couple on my own. So what a win. Not mad about it. It's not as much as I used to read when I was younger, but it's more than I have read since slime has been my job because my hands are always in glue. Reminding me when I need coffee. No problem, Elizabeth. I drink lots of Red Bull and coffee. I've never had Red Bull. I would text her, but A, that would level up my creep. And B, no, yeah, she would have a panic attack. If someone she didn't know texted her, she'd be like, Sasha, you've gone too far. I'd be like, you're right. I have. I've gone too far. Okay. It's nice to listen to a book that isn't anatomy or a physiology book. That sounds awful. No, you're totally fine, Becca. You're totally fine. Okay, we're on chapter 23. Chapter 23. You're going to bake your fake Tanner. That's amazing. Okay. Furious with Horace for what he'd done, Theo decided he was finished. He headed to his room and found the asylum papers gone, along with all their other documents, and then he rushed to Alexander's room. Alexander, thank goodness you're here. Are you all right? He asked, noticing the apprentice's red eyes. Fine, Alexander replied. It was only when he looked up that he saw the panic on Theo's face. What's wrong? Theo explained the situation as quickly as he could, detailing his plan to go abroad. We have no choice but to go. I don't trust Horace anymore. Alexander looked at him in confusion. Wait, you weren't trying to keep me and Lena apart? Theo softened. I wasn't happy about finding you sleeping next to her, but I know you'd never hurt her. He glanced down the hallway outside Alexander's room nervously. Now, please, we must act fast. Alexander shook his head. Wait, there's something you need to know first. Lena walked as quickly as she could through the halls, not stopping until she reached the library. Bereft and still in shock from what Alexander had said, she sank into one of the armchairs, tears rolling down her face. How had it come to this? How on earth had the two people she loved most ended up being the ones who betrayed her trust? Lena fingered the bracelet Alexander had given her for her birthday. At the time, she'd thought it represented something more, a start of a new phase in her life. She now realized how little she actually knew about him. She'd always thought it was simply too painful for him to talk about his past. How silly she was to have thought that he might have wanted to willingly be her friend, let alone love her. Look around you, Lena, she thought, her eyes glistening. This is who you are. It is you and your books and your useless legs. You have no friends. You never did. And that's all you need to know, Alexander finished quickly. Theo looked at his apprentice, who suddenly seemed so young and vulnerable. Alexander, if you're going to tell me how terrible I am, save it. Lena's already done that. Theo shook his head. I don't think that at all. I think you were a scared boy who did what he had to do in dire circumstances. Alexander wiped his nose. As hard as it had been to tell them, at least he didn't have to lie anymore. There's more to say, but time is of the essence. Theo glanced at the clock. Alexander looked up. You still want me to come? Theo nodded. Everyone has a past, and you've shown that you can change. Now, hurry, he said, standing up. We must move. Where did Lena go? Alexander shook his head. She left, and she told me not to follow her. She was so upset. Get everything you need and meet me in Horace's office in 20 minutes. I'll pack some of her things and we'll find her after we get our papers. I'll hire a car to get us to Paris, and from there we'll head to London. There's no point in staying here any longer. After they'd shoved what they needed into their bags, the two illusionists met outside Horace's office. Theo, determined to close this chapter of his life and start anew. When Chadwick opened the door, Theo stopped short. Horace was sitting directly opposite them, his hands folded. Theo felt an eerie chill run through him, but kept calm. How dare you, Theo said to the man that he had once respected. Horace had done so much for him that it made him sad to think that their relationship would end this way. How dare I? How dare you? What did you think was going to happen? That I wouldn't figure it out? Horace's voice dripped with anger, and he leaned forward to light a cigar. I was doing it for the children. Horace blew a ring of smoke from between his chapped lips. Why should I believe you? You would have taken everything, my ideas, my secrets. You would have set up your own show and profited from my hard work. For heaven's sake, can't you see how dangerous Europe has become? You once told me that everything was timing, Theodorus. Horace leaned back and exhaled another lazy ring of smoke. How right you were.
He nodded to Chadwick, who opened the door. Huh. 4 SS guards and a head officer stepped in, all in uniform. When Alexander looked at the officer, his blood went cold. He recognized him from the checkpoint in Norway. Panicking, he tried to catch Theo's attention, but the illusionist wasn't looking at him. Officer, Horace said, as you know, I do everything I can to keep those who don't belong away from my establishment, but alas, it's not always possible. Horace sighed and signaled to Chadwick to bring him a stack of papers. It pains me greatly to have to do this, Theo. You were once one of my best. Horace held up a passport stamped with the red letter J. Alexander felt his heart skip a beat. His old passport, the one he thought was destroyed. He never should have trusted them. He moved to run, but the guards barred his way. Horace handed over the passport and the papers to the officer standing before him. You'll find evidence of the fugitive and the man who hid him in there. They were planning to leave for America using some false identity created for the boy, Horace said, pointing at Theo. Do what you will with them. They're of no concern of mine now. Back in the library, Lena was starting to get hungry. In her emotional state, she'd forgotten about lunch and realized she hadn't finished her breakfast after Horace had so rudely interrupted it. Although she didn't feel like facing anyone, Mario wouldn't let her eat alone in the kitchen, so she unbolted the library doors and headed in that direction. Back in Horace's office, Theo was doing his best to stay calm. Sir, he said, stepping towards the officer, leafing through the papers, this man is a liar. No more of a liar than you are, Horace yelled. Sir, if you could please let me explain. But Theo didn't finish his sentence, because at that moment he saw the guards to his left grasp Alexander's arms. Thankfully, he was too fast for them. He twisted out of their grasp, and he was out the door when their attention was on Theo. Theo, go, Alexander yelled, and he began to sprint down the hall. Theo reacted immediately, flipping over Horace's armchair and taking off in the opposite direction. Alexander moved swiftly, but he hit a dead end. When he turned, 2 guards were right behind him. One of them raised their fist and punched Alexander squarely in the side of his head and watched snarling as the young apprentice slumped to the ground. At the opposite end of the hallway, Theo managed to head off the guards, chasing him now, embroiled in a struggle with the head officer. One hallway over, Lena was just about to enter the kitchen when she heard yelling. It sounded like German. Were they being searched again? She wondered, fear rising as she thought of the stolen items in Alexander's room. Panicking, she let the kitchen door shut and followed the noise. Hearing the commotion outside, other performers had begun to emerge cautiously from their carriages. As Lena drew closer to Horace's office, her father's familiar voice became unmistakable. Her heart raced as she walked as fast as she could. Papa? She rounded the corner to find Theo in the grip of a uniformed guard. Papa! She screamed. Theo's eyes met her. Lena, get out of here! Lena stood frozen in spot. Her father's lips moved again, but she couldn't hear anything. The vision in front of her feeling unreal. This couldn't be happening, not to Theo. Her father was the one who stuck his neck out for an orphan when no one else would. Her father was the one who, despite his transgressions while married, had never abandoned her. Her father was the one who had brought the entire universe to her when she wasn't able to go out and see it for herself. In that moment, she saw him clearly. She knew her love for him would overcome her temporary anger. She squeezed her eyes shut, hoping when she opened them again, the hallway would be empty and the guards would be gone and her father would be free. But the guards remained. Clutching Theo tightly, hearing the sounds of another struggle behind her, Lena turned and saw Alexander slumped in the corner opposite end of the hallway. She rushed towards him. Alexander, get up, he moaned groggily. Lena? Lena tugged desperately at his sleeve. We have to get out of here. She slapped his face, but it was no use. From the corner of her eye, Lena saw a sharp movement. A guard had spotted her hovering over Alexander and made his way towards her. Alexander, move! She shrieked. Lena! It was her father. He could see the guard advancing, and Lena locked eyes with Theo and yelled again with more urgency than she ever had heard from him. Lena, go! Her face crumbled, and she took one last look at Alexander. She slipped off her dove bracelet and quickly shoved it in his pocket, tears spilling down her face. Alexander, I'm so sorry. And then she turned in the opposite direction, ignoring the pain in her legs, and took off, her mind going into survival mode. She knew she couldn't outpace the guards, so she twisted back on her path and quickly sidestepped into a parallel hallway that ran away from Horace's study. From there, she ducked into one of the side rooms, locking the door as quietly as she could. She leaned against it, breathing heavily. The guards might have been fast, but she knew the circus and its hallways like the back of her hand. From the outside, she heard the sounds of the guards rushing past and her father's voice. "Don't be scared, Lena. I will find you. I promise." Fighting back tears, Lena waited. She knew where she had to go. She unlocked the door and peeked outside. She knew they'd still be looking for her. Once she was sure the way was clear, she took off again, darting out of the crevices, alcoves, and behind curtains until she arrived at the entrance to the Mirage maze. Once inside, she turned left and right and left and right, moving at a pace accelerated by the fear clawing at her insides. She didn't stop until she reached the Proteus cabinet. Flinging the mirrored panels open, Lena limped in and collapsed, her legs throbbing. She carefully pushed the panels together until they were flush with each other. She waited, trembling and worried that the guards would be able to detect the beating of her heart, the panting of her breath. She heard footsteps run past her once, twice. She could hear more guards entering the maze, shouting at each other in German. Terrified, Lena tore off her braces and clutched her head in her hands. She closed her eyes and began reciting a prayer over and over in her mind. "Please let them be okay. Please, I promise I'll forgive Papa. I promise I'll never ask for things to be different again. I promise I'll be happy with what I have. I promise to stay away from Alexander, please." She prayed and prayed as her father's words, "I will find you," promise, echoed in her ear. Well, that was rough. What the heck? I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Yep. That's not good. That's not good. Wow, that was really intense. Okay, chapter 24. Let's go. Lena didn't know how long she was in the Proteus cabinet, but at some point she drifted off to sleep. When she awoke, night had fallen and the air was damp. Shivering, she listened for the sounds of the Germans, but all she could hear were troop members calling her name. She closed her eyes, wishing she could hide in the maze forever, but she knew she had to face whatever risk was on the other side, so she fastened her braces, pushed apart the mirrors, and began to walk towards the exit. Anna Maria spotted her first. She cried out, rushing to Lena's side, and wrapped her arms around her tightly. "Don't worry, we'll find them." Lena's heart lifted when she heard Anna Maria's words. If she said they would find them, it meant that they were still alive. It meant that there was still a chance. At the demands of her company, Horace extended the circus's stay in Rouen. The performers had abandoned their duties and instead spent the days walking the streets of the small town, asking for Theo and Alexander. UC took Lena to the local police station, but as they walked away after filing their report, Lena knew that the police were too afraid to go up against the SS. They'd do whatever they could to keep themselves safe. Through all of this, Lena was comforted by the performers who tried to keep her spirits up. Mario made her favorite foods, ensuring that the plate was delivered to her room at each meal. Yusi, Anna Maria, and Neka took turns sitting by her bedside each evening, waiting until she'd fallen asleep. Dr. Wilson encouraged her to continue with her therapy sessions, knowing that having something to do would be good for her. Even some of the young performers were going out of their way to check on her, inviting her to take part in their games. Yet, even with all the extra help, Lena struggled to see past the fear shrouding her. It felt like her whole life had been put on hold indefinitely, and that she wouldn't be able to think about anything else until her father and Alexander were found. A week of waiting turned into 2. With each passing day, Lena sank deeper into a pit of despair. terrified of what the next day would bring. After hearing nothing for almost 3 weeks, Yusi and Anna Maria called Lena into the library one afternoon. "What is it?" she asked, anxiety raising when she saw their facial expressions. "Lena," Yusi began, "one of the townsfolk said they saw uniformed officers going in and out of an old house on the outskirts of town." Lena brightened. "You found them?" Yusi paused, struggling to get out his next words. "There was a fire. It doesn't look like there were any survivors." "What?" "The house burned down," Anna Maria said gently. "But we don't know for certain that they were there," Lena exclaimed. Anna Maria and Yusi exchanged a glance, and then he unfurled his fingers to reveal Alexander's mother's necklace. Charred on the tips, the once bright diamond star shone no more. She felt her voice in her throat. "No," she whispered. The remains of 6 male bodies were found. "No," Lena wailed. "He told me that he would come back." "Lena," Anna Maria murmured, trying to embrace the young girl, but Lena pushed her away fiercely. She rushed out of the library, walking as quickly as she could to Horace's study, and barged in without knocking. When he looked up from his desk, Lena could tell that he heard the news. "My dear, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen." "Didn't you?" Lena yelled. "You planned this. You wanted them gone." Horace rose from his desk. "I wanted no such thing, but my circus was at risk. Your father was going to leave me with nothing, and I did what I had to do." "My father would never betray you the way that you betrayed him. He was a trustworthy man." "Then why was he planning to leave the country?" Lena frowned. "What?" "Chadwick found asylum papers to America amongst his belongings," Horace said, stepping out from behind his desk, his eyes narrowing. "He never said anything about that to me." "Well, that's how lies work, Lena. A secret escape, a hidden affair." Horace watched her like a hawk. "It seems even you didn't know your father as well as you thought." He knew he was rubbing salt in her wound, but he was sick of everyone blaming him for the tragic turn of events. If Theo hadn't been trying to leave in the first place, they would all still be safely on board. "You're a liar," Lena choked, unwilling to believe him. She began pulling at the books lining the opulent shelves, throwing them on the floor in a fit of fury when Anna Maria and Yusi bust into the study. "Lena," Anna Maria said. She rushed over to her and grabbed her shoulders. At first she felt the girl resist, but Lena collapsed against her chest, weeping. "Come, you shouldn't be in here," she said, soothing as Yusi hoisted Lena into his arms. Horace watched as the trio left, the girl looking like a tiny, helpless baby bird, crying for a parent that would never return. Years ago, Lena remembered asking her father what he did after her mother died. "In the Greek Orthodox Church," Theo said, "we mourn the deceased for 40 days. "What does mourn mean?" "It means you allow yourself to be sad. It takes time to process losing someone that you loved." "Did I mourn?" "You were so little, but yes, I'm sure you felt some part of her leave." "I don't remember." "It's okay. The important thing is, after you finish mourning, you have to keep living. Your mother wouldn't have wanted us to be sad forever, only looking into the past." Lena thought about that conversation as she sat in the dining hall surrounded by the performers who'd come out to remember her father and Alexander. Death, she quickly realized, brought out different things in different people. Some of the performers wore their emotion publicly, unashamed to cry. Others dealt with it by reminiscing about the good times that they'd had. Still others mourned in private, taking care to avoid Lena because they felt uncomfortable in her presence. Lena didn't know what she felt. She moved through each day as though stuck in a fog, repeating the same stock responses to everyone who asked how she was feeling. She spent most of her time in her room alone, staring up at the ceiling, an ache permeating her gut that she was sure would never fade. She completely lost her appetite and turned her nose up at meals. "Lena," Mario would call, hovering outside her door as he looked sadly at the plates gathering in the hallway, "you must keep up your strength." But it was no use. The only time she felt any kind of peace was when she slept. Even then, it was fleeting. She'd wake up each morning, the tiny gap between dreaming and reality setting in, providing one moment of respite in her days. I can't do this anymore, Lena whispered during a physical therapy session, her face crumbling as she finally admitted defeat. She sent her cane scuttling across the ground as it slid to the floor. Cradling her head in her hands, "You're doing marvelously," Dr. Wilson coaxed. "Everyone who loved me is gone," she said, beginning to cry as if realizing it for the first time. Dr. Wilson knelt down. "That's not true. I'm still here, and so are Anna Maria and Yusi and a whole host of people who love you." Lena pointed to her legs, tears streaming down her face. "What's the point?" Dr. Wilson's face softened. "The point," he said gently, hooking his arms underneath her and hoisting her up like a puppet, "is that you must continue to live your life." "I can't. Perhaps not this second, but you will. Think about what kind of person your father would have wanted you to be. Then be that person. Even though he's not here, you can still make him proud." In September, 1 month after Theo and Alexander had disappeared, Horace decided it was time for the circus to set off for England. As the train drew closer to London, Lena stared out the window, shivering. The weather was cold and gray, not unlike the atmosphere on board the train, she thought. Whereas the arrival at Victoria Station usually meant the start of rehearsals for a new tour, Horace had postponed the upcoming season, citing needing to refocus his creative efforts. But Lena knew it was because the troupe no longer trusted him. A third had resigned, and among the performers who remained, whispers circulated every day about who would be next. She knew she could try to figure out her way forward, but she was finding it difficult to settle back into her old routine. How could she when there was nothing of her former life to go back to? One evening, as she rummaged through her cupboard trying to find an extra blanket, she caught sight of the planets from the orrery that Alexander had given her. She dismantled it soon after his death, finding it unbearable to look at, but now the smooth malachite rock of earth gleamed like a beacon of light, and she felt something catch inside her. Stumbling backward, she curled up next to her bed, shaking. She dared not tell anyone what she was thinking for fear that they would dismiss her feelings as childish, but in the solitude of her carriage, she knew that her feelings for him were true and pure. She'd loved him. It was a big word, love, and not one that she would toss around carelessly. But no matter how hard she had tried to deny it, the person that she loved was gone, and now she had to live with the weight of how she'd treated him for the rest of her life. Regret, she thought, forcing herself to stand up and climb into bed, was a terrible thing. As she tried to sleep, she wondered if the sadness weighing her down would ever lift. Then, one morning, she wasn't quite sure which day it was because there was no longer a way to keep track of time. She'd woken up and she didn't feel quite as badly as she usually did. She waited in bed, waited for the sinking feeling to come that she'd known so well. But a few minutes passed and it still wasn't there. She removed the covers and sat up. Not wanting to push things, she went about her day as normal, only this time she finished the meals that Mario had left outside. In the afternoon, she cracked a book open and read a few pages. The next day, she did the same. And at the end of the week, she ventured into the kitchen, blushing when everyone turned to look at her. For a minute, she thought about retreating to her room. "Eilina, the color is in your face," Mario said warmly as he steered her towards a pot of pasta he'd been fussing over. "Here," he said, holding out the wooden spoon to her. "You a try. New recipe." Lena spooned some of the food into her mouth and chewed on it thoughtfully. "It's good," she said, nodding. "Very good." And then she smiled. Later that afternoon, as she sat at her desk rereading some of her old exam notes, she caught sight of her cane. Think of the person your father would have wanted you to be, and then be that person. Lena bit her lower lip, and then before she could change her mind, she fastened her braces, grabbed the cane that she'd been using in her therapy sessions, and set off for the infirmary. She found Dr. Wilson hunched over an assortment of ointments that he was labeling. "What can I help you with, Lena?" he asked upon seeing her. Lena gripped the door frame with one hand, held out her cane with the other. "Are you busy?" You thought of someone for the role, but she'd be too old for Lena. Maybe she can She can play adult Lena if we ever get to adult Lena in this book. I don't know if we will. But it's possible, right? Maybe. Maybe there'll be 2 Lenas. A few days later, after resuming therapy sessions, Lena felt brave enough to venture into her father's carriage, which had sat untouched since his capture. As she entered the space she'd shared with him for so many years, a lifetime of happy memories came flooding back. Her father had never been the neatest person, but now she looked upon the stacks of papers and piles of clothes with affection. She plucked a sweater off the armchair and lifted it to her face, rubbing it against her cheek before folding it. After she'd done the same with all of the clothes lying around the room, she opened his dresser to put everything away. As she made room for the sweater, she glimpsed a bulky envelope tucked at the back of the drawer. Curious, Lena pulled it out and dumped the contents onto his bed. The first piece of paper she picked up was titled St. Ives School for Girls, Application for Admission. She scanned it and then flipped it over to see handwriting with a list and the title Alternative Schools in America. As she read the list, it dawned on her that Horace wasn't lying. Her father was planning to leave the circus. Theo knew Lena wasn't going to be able to get the education she desired, and even though he tried to stop her from going to boarding school, if this list was any indication, he had changed his mind. He also knew how dangerous it was for Alexander to stay in Europe, so he'd made the ultimate sacrifice, and he'd been preparing to give up his life's work for them. In a smaller envelope, Lena found a thick stack of bills with a note from Alexander. I don't need your money to be her friend. Feeling her stomach lurch, she counted the bills one by one. It was all there. He hadn't spent a penny. Her heart thumping, Lena flicked through the remaining documents. When she found the letter from Isabella to her father, she reread it, waiting for the resentment to grab hold of her, but all she felt was sadness, because her father had done the right thing when it counted. He'd chosen her and her mother over this woman. I will find you, I promise. The last words her father had spoken flooded her ears. Frowning, she scanned the room, wondering if there was more to what he had said than she'd initially thought. Perhaps there was a hidden meaning, something he wanted her to find or do. She was the straightforward one, forever taking things at face value, but her father was never like that. She began tapping at the floorboards and pulling up cupboards and hunting for something unseen. She willed herself to find a note, a reminder, a talisman, some kind of sign that her father was going to come back to her safely. She wanted to believe that the past month had been a terrible trick, that with the snap of her fingers, everything would return to normal. And so she looked and looked, but it was no use. He was a master, and he had vanished without a trace. Ouch, man. Ouch. Wow, I need some coffee. Holy moly. That was really intense. Yeah. So we're about to start part 2. Do we want to talk about anything before we start part 2 to like decompress a little from what just happened? Yeah, it is 8 o'clock. I saw that. It was a very intense few chapters. I'm going to see how long the next chapter is and see if we can start the next one. But I feel like we just need a moment, to decompress for a second, because that was a lot. We've lost 2 really important people. I have to go for a meeting, so I'll start reading part 2 tonight. Message me first, Shelly, to see if we got there, because I'm going to check and see how many pages it is before. Maybe we'll start it tomorrow. Yeah, a cry shower. I know. Ugh. I have a lot of friends with disabilities who have been through grief similar to this. How is anyone still with Horace? I don't think... Okay, So I want to say wait, let me just see how many pages are in the next chapter. The next chapter is kind of long, so we're probably going to have to start it tomorrow because I have a lot to do today, packing orders and stuff. But I want to say something on behalf of the people who are still staying with Horace, despite the fact that it seems truly awful. We have to remember something that we talked about yesterday. The circus will probably go under, but you can't fault people who are in a vulnerable position for trying to maintain some kind of stasis in the face of trauma. And also, yes, if he would do this, you can imagine what he'd do to you, of course, but survival and needing a job when you're not like a doctor or a lawyer or something. I mean, like, okay, just speaking as someone who works in a much safer time, people in the theater and entertainment will take whatever we can get sometimes. And I'm not proud to say that, but I've worked for some crappy people in the past. And sometimes you just do what you have to do to survive. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I did not know you were getting ready for a service. I also didn't know this was going to happen either. I would have given a trigger warning had I known. But I think, unfortunately, sometimes reading something that takes place in a war zone such as this, we have to assume that there will be casualties, unfortunately. And I didn't think of that, and I apologize for not thinking ahead of that. But people who... I don't want to say turning them in was survival, although he probably does look at it that way. I think if we were in Horace's mind, like if you were ever to do the like flip side of the story, in Horace's mind, he probably really did think turning them in was the survival of what he was doing. But what I meant more is that any of the circus members who are still working under Horace, it's survival for them. It's survival for like the Anna Marias and the Marios of the bunch. You know what I mean? Like think about it. Mario's a foreigner who's just a cook. Right? I mean, he's probably a great chef, but you have to think, like, where is his next job going to come when there aren't going to be people hiring fancy chefs because it's a war zone? You know what I mean? So it's even worse for a contortionist. Who's going to hire a contortionist right now? And if she's been doing it since she was a child, and also they're not with Horace, they're there for Lena. That too, I meant let them leave and be bad guys for abandoning him. Oh yeah, I don't think anyone except for Chadwick did anything with Horace. I don't believe, based on what we read, that any of them had anything to do with the capture. I don't think any of them would have wanted this. I think they are all on Theo's side. And also the other thing you have to remember is, remember at the beginning when we were reading, if any of you missed it, there's a whole chapter about how Horace traveled around Europe and found people in vulnerable situations who have talent, right? This is also something that P.T. Barnum did, right? This is the not great part. They went to orphanages and like backwoods places where people didn't have money and pulled people out of vulnerable situations, offering them a fancy looking life in exchange for working for him. And that was probably their first time seeing money in their lives. You know what I mean? And food and steady everything. You know what I mean? This was their only look at a steady life. And they're probably shell-shocked and scared, and they don't know anything else. Easy to manipulate them, yes, and they were babies when they got there. And even if they had been adults when they got there, I mean, like that's something people ask people in the theater all the time. Well, if it's so bad, then why don't you just go do something else? I don't know anything else. This is all I've ever done. You know what I mean? Like, if something is the only thing you've ever known, how do you get out of it even when it's bad? You know? Horace was the OG MLM, preying on people who were in desperate situations. Truly. I mean, like, my mom's a doctor, but she didn't raise us like a household of kids who were doctors' kids. We were raised like, okay, has anyone ever seen the movie Me and My Shadows, the Judy Garland biography? Like, it's a lot more akin to that, you know, than that. So like, we didn't, you know, well, if we're going to do, okay, wait, remember how we were talking about doing a watch party? If that is on Netflix, that's going to be our watch party, because that is one of my favorite movies of all time. I have Holocaust survivors in my family. We always heard about extremes people went to. Yeah. My sister would tell you it's like Mommy Dearest. I haven't seen Mommy Dearest, so I can't say personally, but my sister would probably say that. Yeah, probably. But I've never seen it, and that's probably it for the best that I don't see it. But yeah, so if you, yes, watch party, we have a Holocaust museum. We may go tomorrow. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's a good idea. We should all go when this is over to our local Holocaust museums and really, you know, pay homage to the people who went through the things that we're reading about. That's, you know, it's really something. There's a reason there's a Remembrance Day, even though it's hard, you know. Don't want to brush these things under the rug and ever pretend like they didn't happen. That would be the ultimate betrayal, truly, of us. I mean, people in that time, there was more betrayal, but like for us as people beyond that time, remembrance and honor is kind of your job, I think, at that point. Does that make sense? My grandmother survived by being very outwardly Jewish. That shouldn't be funny. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to laugh, but you knew you'd worded it in a funny way. The Holocaust Memorial in Israel is one of the hardest things I've been to. I can't even imagine. History is important. We learn from it and we don't repeat it. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Did you Shelly and Shira, did you get to go because you went on a birthright trip? Is that how you got to go there? Because you were on birthright? I knew a couple people who did birthright trips when we were younger. Not for nothing. I actually think the birthright thing is like absolutely genius. And I think that every country should do that. I do. I did a summer semester in Israel in high school and later went on birthright. Very cool. Very cool. She'd walk outside with the SS thinking she'd survive. Wow. Wow. No one in their right mind would be so visible. I mean, it turns out she wasn't wrong. I have feelings about birthright, so much propaganda. Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like just the very basic idea that you get to go back and experience your homeland in a way. Well, I guess it's not. That's the thing about Israel, though, is that not all Jews are from Israel. So that's the hard thing. But, all right, bye. See you later, Shelly. Once with family, once on a 6-week trip that turned into 3 months, and then on my honeymoon. Oh my gosh, wow. That's all amazing. I don't want to go to the Holocaust Museum in my town because it's ran by a cult. Yeah, that's a good reason. It's a good reason to not want to go. It's a good reason to not want to go. All right, wow, we went through a lot today. I'm going to go pack orders and then make breakfast for Catherine and Zoe. And she was alive when I was, and she shared that part of the story with us somehow. Some she couldn't talk about. For the freaking, I don't blame her, Missy. Sasha, if you want to go to the one in LA, I'll go with you. Yeah, I think we should. I think we should go to the one in LA. I think we should go to the one in LA, and I think that we should honor it. Hope your restock went well. I snagged a few. It did go well, Tiffany. Thank you so much. I went to the one in DC. I emailed you about her birthday order. Okay, great. I want to wait until after the book is over, of course. I think that would be important. You want to go? All right, let's go. Any of us who are in the LA area, we should go. We'll make a thing of it. It'll be a thing, and we'll take videos for those who are in the book club that can't be there with us. And hopefully other people can go in their own respective places. Yeah, you can invite yourself. I think that's a really honorable thing to do. When is Holocaust Remembrance Day? I don't remember, which is ironic. When is that? Not that we have to go on that day. Much like Valentine's Day, you shouldn't only think of things like that on the day of, but especially with everything going on in the world, with everything that happened, January 27th, we missed it. Bummer. Okay, well, we're not waiting till next year. That's too long. So forget that idea. Oh, well, we missed it. It is what it is. We can go a different day. It doesn't have to be that day. Yeah. That was heavy. I'm sorry that we lost them. And, you know, despite Theo's indiscretions, it's obvious that he was a good man and did the right thing in the face of the situation. You know, I went to Auschwitz when I was 13. I'm supposed to go to Poland with family. Oof. I can't imagine doing that. I don't think, I mean, I would want to honor them, but I don't know that I have the emotional capacity for that. We don't know we lost them for real. You're right, they are illusionists. We don't know that we lost them for real. You're right. They are illusionists. I think there's more to the story, and Theo didn't actually have an affair, and it's something else. Maybe. That's possible. That is possible. Liz, that's possible. I think the more important fact about Theo is that he was willing to protect and save Alexander in the face of his own death. You know what I mean? Like, he looked at that boy like his own son, and, you know, that's, to me, obviously cheating is bad, but, you know, will there be any more Rainbow House content? Actually, yes, I do have a couple of more things to make, but it's I have to get to a place where I have time to do them. But I have a whole playlist of Rainbow House stuff if you want to look at it. Anyway, okay, I'm going to go. I'm going to pack orders. I'm going to make breakfast for my sister and my niece, and then pack more orders, and then take some to the post office. A lot of you will have orders in the mail today. And we will be back tomorrow for part 2. Wild times, y'all. What a wild time.